How would Jujutsu Kaisen progress if Toji raised Megumi? Would Megumi become evil? Would he become good? How strong would Megumi end up becoming if his father actively raised him and taught him a lot of skills that he would have never been able to learn in any other way? We already know what Megumi's personality is, and we already seen exactly what he can get up to in canon and everything else like that, and we've seen how the story has progressed along. But Toji raising Megumi would easily change out the story so differently that it would be a completely new monster of messes that no one could really ever understand or come to expect. That's what we're going to be discussing in this video. How the story would have progressed if any of these changes happened, and really going to be discussing how Toji's abilities really stack up into the point of leading to him training Megumi, teaching him, raising him like his own son and everything else like that. It would be a complete monster of a way through Megumi's life, but that's just the fun of it. Before we discuss exactly how I think the changes would happen in all of JJK, specifically revolving around Megumi and everything else like that, I would actively like to take a little minute just to talk about Toji and his exact abilities that'll cause such a massive change to happen. So, as we all know, Toji is an anomaly in the entirety of JJK. He having not any cursed energy whatsoever is already stated to be the first in all of existence by Yuki Tsukumo, that he is the first in existence not to have any cursed energy whatsoever. Obviously causing him to have the same trials and tribulations, but on a so much worse degree that Maki had when it came to being involved in the Zenin clan. Because that is the clan that Toji was originally from, obviously, since he's Megumi's father. But the main difference is, since Toji doesn't have any cursed energy whatsoever, he has to think about everything on a such different level that it is actively horrifying to anybody else. Him not having any cursed energy whatsoever causes him to actively have such a high heavenly restriction that his strength is on a such high extent that nothing actually makes sense there. His strength, speed, reflexes, senses, everything about him is basically leveled up to a 10 that it is actively so scary on how powerful he is. And the fact that he can't see curses, but he's able to just be able to sense that they're there due to the air pressure and the air difference is even more terrifying, as we've seen where he gets introduced during the hidden inventory arc. After eventually leaving the Zenin clan due to the fact of all the discrimination and everything else like that, obviously, we see how in the story of JJK, he ends up becoming an assassin and eventually getting the name and the moniker of the Sorcerer Killer. That alone has to be terrifying for anybody else, strictly due to the fact of he doesn't have cursed energy, so you can't just like sense him due to the fact of cursed energy and everything else like that. He's just one of those things that is scary to anybody else. And what we saw him do to Gojo alone should be terrifying in its own right. That alone should be terrifying to anybody else due to the fact that he was almost able to kill, quite literally, the definition of the strongest person in existence in their world at that exact moment. Gojo Satoru is one of the characters that is quite literally considered the pinnacle of strength in the Jujutsu Kaisen sorcerer world for a good reason. Obviously, we've seen what happens to Gojo now, but Gojo was so strong that when Toji knew that he was going to die, and he knew that, well, he knew something was going to happen, Megumi was literally asked, like, basically already being transferred over to the Zenin clan due to the fact of him most likely being the one to have the active 10 Shadows technique, but Gojo ended up even raising him, which I honestly never liked the idea of, strictly because Gojo couldn't really do too much to really develop Megumi into the perfect place of him gaining abilities and gaining his full potential to a very high esteem. And hence why I'm doing this video, obviously. I've already talked about the fact of Toji actively being such a threat to any sorcerers due to the fact of, one, his heavenly restriction giving him and granting him so many extra perks on the fact that he doesn't get any cursed energy. But due to that specific fact, obviously, he isn't able to be detected by other sorcerers, as I've already said, because they can't sense his cursed energy. And obviously, this wouldn't really ever apply to Megumi because he does have cursed energy. But Toji already knows exactly how to hide his presence, and he knows a lot of good things. He's extremely adept at combat and everything else like that. And his confidence and his personality alone is one of those things that Megumi would easily benefit from. Megumi had Gojo as a role model, yes, but Gojo obviously has other things that he needs to be focused on, and along the lines of Gojo isn't really the best person to teach Megumi how to grow and become the best person as time goes along. That is honestly my opinion, but it's just one of those things that you kind of really have to truly understand as a sheer fact. Gojo is the person that did it, but there are so many people that easily could have done it, and if the Zenin clan was any different, they probably could have done a lot better job. But obviously the Zenin clan and the big three of the Jujutsu Kaisen clans really weren't ever going to be anything different from the things that we would really expect them to be, and everything else along those lines. Toji has an extreme amount of cursed tools to his disposal, from the actual like inventory curse to everything else that he uses during the hidden inventory arc, that if Megumi ever had access to, especially if Toji just said and gave Megumi access to this if he actively raised him, Megumi would be such more of a threat, even if he doesn't like get every single thing. Megumi learning more weapons from an earlier age, learning how to fight and like be a good combatant from an earlier age, and actually having somebody that's there for him completely and teaching him everything that he needs to be able to do would be the best thing for Megumi. And so me getting into actively talking about the situations and scenarios on how any of this would actively go in hand would actively come in right around this point. Toji surviving the hidden inventory arc would actively require a miracle. There would have to be so many events, so many things that take place for Toji to survive that it is actually hilarious. Hence why I'm not going to be explaining how he survives or anything else like that. Him surviving would have to be a fluke of miracle and everything else along those lines. But if we're assuming that he either survives that specific event or completely just have to change up the story in a couple ways to have it be where Toji never sells Megumi, like offers to sell Megumi off to the Zenin clan and everything else like that, and him meeting up with like dealing with Gojo in a different way, most likely the simplest way that I could actively see that even going out is Gojo getting there before like Toji even does anything. He shows up and just asks, I'm getting paid this, pay me 5 times more and I'll leave you guys alone. And I only say that because if Toji gets a lot more money and everything else like that, one, he gets the money, he can help raise Megumi and everything else like that, and Gojo has the money, so I'm not going to even be bothered. But if Toji gets some kind of like payment, everything else like that, that changes the story of JJK in so many drastic ways anyways. But that's something I'm going to be discussing later. For right now, it's just basically Toji survives the inventory arc. He goes back and completely just like stays with Megumi and everything else like along those lines, and him on the way with like Megumi, it's just basically going along the ways of him being able to actively train Megumi in the senses of teaching him how to actively use his body in different ways. Megumi's personality from the beginning was one of those things that I really found hilarious, because how often he was just willing to sacrifice his life and just completely say, with this hidden treasure, I summon Maharaga and everything else like that. And we've all seen the memes going around just basically saying that Megumi is always trying to risk his life to summon Maharaga, even though he knows he wouldn't be able to survive it. In this situation, Toji is easily able to teach Megami obviously very easily about the 10 Shadows techniques because one, he was raised by the zenin, and if we say that Toji is actively raising Megami, there's a possibility that he ends up returning back to the Zenin clan just to give Megami a better chance of surviving and everything else like that, which is a possibility, not highly, but it is a possibility. But Megami is not going to have that mentality of always trying to summon Maharage, even by the point that he eventually does decide to do. Him being trained by his father is one of those things that changes him so much because the fighting styles that he learns, the weapon styles that he learns, obviously he doesn't have the physical strength, but him being able to train like that changes his character in such a high extent, and him being raised in like area relation to Toji changes his personality to such devastating extent that it is actively hilarious. Toji is one of those more cynical characters in my opinion. He doesn't really care about what's going on, and he does exactly what he does. Megami would actively get to the point where he starts having that gojo mentality where he does exactly what he does because he wants to. He is just completely doing whatever he feels like doing, and he's not really worried about any other person's opinions or worried about anything else along those lines. He's actively just doing things that make him happy. And we could still easily say that Megami ends up and attending Jujutsu High and everything else like that. That doesn't really bother me. But if we're just talking about the events that would occur outside of the entirety Fushiguro family, it is one of those things that changes the story so much. If Toji survives, especially, and like if Toji survives and raises Megami to get those circumstances, most likely Riko doesn't die, and that means Geto and Gojo don't really have to deal with anything specifically around the hidden inventory arc and everything else along those lines, causing the sheer fact of one, Toji probably kills the entire association that originally asked him to do that request just to tie up any loose ends because he didn't do the mission that he was supposed to do. And secondly, that most likely ends up with Geto and Gojo helping Riko out do exactly what you wanted to do, live the normal life that she wants to live, which obviously would mess the higher ups up, most likely ending up to the higher ups being killed because Gojo always has that mentality of helping out his friend no matter what. And I have no doubt that him and Geto would easily sacrifice the higher ups to give somebody that they both care about the life that they deserve. So that would, one, change the entirety of the JJK structure to a devastating extent. But we're not even going to discuss that. That's just one of those things that's really not taking effect until Megami actively grows up. And eventually, even once he gets into like the Jujutsu High, by that point, Yuta's obviously still alive because the higher ups wouldn't be alive. I can guarantee that. And if Yuta shows up, one, Geto never turned because Riko was still alive. He has no reason to ever go into that full downward spiral. So Kenjaku most likely never gets the opportunity to take over Geto's body and everything else like that. And so many things just kind of start spiraling around there. With that specifically going on, there's no night parade and everything else like that. There's no real big fight along those lines. And even when we get to Yuji being and coming along, the possibility of that happening still most likely happens. Megami probably wouldn't be able to stop Yuji from eating the finger, even though he's way stronger, especially even when we have Megami still being the person that shows up. And yes, Megami still would be way stronger and everything else along those lines, but even if Yuji ends up eating the finger, there's not really much worry for Megami's point, because by this point, I honestly see him being stronger than at least a one-finger Sukuna by far, simply due to the fact of, we all know Megami was basically not going at his full potential at the beginning of the series. Everyone was confused why, specifically even Gojo was confused about why he wasn't able to use abilities that he should have been able to use and why he wasn't doing things that he should have been able to do on a very high level, but he wasn't doing them. it was just one of those confusing things that was baffling anybody. But if he was trained by Toji, he would easily be hitting his closer to his full potential by far in so many different extremes and so many different levels that it isn't even hilarious. It's just one of the true facts that I honestly just have to say. It's just something that would easily, most definitely be happening. The story would really differ out in so many different ways, and I don't really see there being a possibility of Megumi even getting taken over because Toji's still alive, so he's absolutely helping Megumi in any situation that he ever needs to be helped in. So Sukuna taking over Megumi's body doesn't really ever happen. And a lot of the events would end up happening because, one, Toji's around in that situation to help and combat whatever's going on. Anytime that something bad's going to be really majorly going on, Gojo and Toji could easily just deal with whatever needs to be happening. Toji is just one of those big, strong forces that nobody ever could even possibly fathom dealing with. And both of those two being alive would just be a real havoc on everybody else. Toji would probably even end up training Maki in very high extremes because of the fact that she has a healing restriction that is very similar to his, and that would probably really cause a very close relationship between Megumi and Maki, because they see each other as very close, familiar family. Yes, they're part of the same clan, but they would see themselves as a more close-knit family between those two because they actually both have somebody that they respect and look up to that isn't the actual Zenin clan that they mostly all of them really despise up until this point. Once Maki actually leaves, I really see her spending most of her time with Toji and everything else like that as the person that really takes her in and everything else. But please tell me what you guys do think would have happened in this scenario. Tell me what you guys do think possibly would have even ensued past everything along those lines, because obviously I don't see a lot of the situations happening if there's no Kenjaku and everything else along those lines. So please tell me what you guys do think about this idea. Give me your thoughts, opinions, comments down below and everything else like that. Check out the link in the description to get access to the Discord, the anime clothing site that's linked down in the description, the YouTube memberships, and a lot of other links. Go check that all out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.